Hello everyone and welcome to my second video on easy steps how to grow tomatoes at home. I will also show you some techniques that you can use in your home garden which will definitely increase your yield and productivity of your tomato plants. So let's get started. Most of you already know, but tomato is not really a vegetable. It's actually a fruit and it is one of the most popular. Exactly why it's most popular is because it's widespread and it's very tasty and you can store it for a lot of time. One of the most popular cuisines out there, the Italian, relies heavily on the tomato and its influence. So let me show you a few tips how to grow it at home or at your garden. There are 4 essential ingredients which you need to start your tomato plants: soil, sun, proper seed and water. Tomato plants can pretty much thrive on any soil type, but they really like nitrogen-rich soil, which helps them grow a lot. Phosphorus and calcium help them make fruit and develop better flowering. As soon as you manage to provide them with the proper soil, the adequate amount of nutrition, you will start to look at place where to put them. What I mean where to put them is that the tomato plants, they like really a lot of sunlight, which means they will have to grow less leaves to produce sugar-rich fruits. If you look closely at this tomato garden, you will see that around the plants there are no trees, or if there are any, they are quite far away. This is because the trees will make a good amount of shade and they will keep moisture, which is also very unbeneficial for the tomato plants. You really want them to be exposed to the sunlight. Quick tip to know if your sunlight of your tomato plants is sufficient is the color of their leaves. Mainly when the tomato plant receives a lot of light, it will produce very dark green leaves. Means that the plant is photosynthesizing and producing a lot of sugar. If leaves are white and barren, this can be a result of disease or a lack of light. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind that there are a lot of varieties of tomato plants like the cherry or the big red. This means that you can try to, to grow such kind of tomatoes which are best suitable for your climate. There are many varieties which are disease resistant and can tolerate colder climates or vice versa a very hot one. Tomatoes originally come from South America from a very humid and hot climate. This means that you must provide them with adequate water. Tomatoes really like to be soaking wet and to have a good drainage. So when planting them, you should really think about this. You must really avoid, however, soaking the entire plant, as the leaves must be constantly kept dry. This is mainly done to avoid diseases on the plant, which can affect the productivity and the overall health of the plant, like seen in this picture. One of the easiest ways to start your tomato plant is by planting the seeds in some little trays and wait for them to grow big and then transplant them to your garden. What I find easiest thing to do is to put them in single pots. It doesn't matter if they're paper pots or plastic. And when the seedlings grow and the plant is strengthened, then you transfer it to your garden. You can buy ready plant pots from the supermarket, your local agro center, or just use any seeds from the supermarket which you like. Another thing which you can do is when you're pruning your tomato plants, you can use strong leaves of the plants you like, soak them in water, put them in separate plant pots, and they will start to grow on themselves without using any other seeds, and this speeds your process. Once your plants in their pots are strong enough and the weather in your region is good to plant outside or in your greenhouse, you take your plant You take your plants without disturbing the soil and you plant them straight into the ground, into the hole. You may optional add some fertilizer rich in nitrogen, potassium and calcium. As you see here, it's actually no problem to put part of the stem in the ground, and in some cases it is recommended because the stem will actually spread its own roots and this increases the agility of your plant, like seen in this picture. The next thing you need to keep in mind is that tomato plants like to be placed in a trellis. That means you want them to grow upwards and avoid spreading shoots. These shoots are called suckers, which actually prevent the plant from growing upwards and it will start to grow sideways. This is not good for your garden because when it goes sideways, the plant contains more moisture in its leaves and this leads to fungal growth. The way to avoid this is to prune the lower leaves once you pick the lower fruits and allow the plant to grow steadily upwards towards the light and give you a steady income of new flowers which later turn into fruit. In this picture you can see a tiny white string which follows around the stem of the plant. This stem is held by this string and a consecutive another strings that are attached to the plant. The plant then is held upright and goes to the top of the string. This allows for better airflow and less diseases. In this particular case, this tomato plant is held by a steel pillar. You can do this with strong wooden sticks, but you must refer to keeping at least 1 meter of height. Once the tomato plant has started to change its color to orange, then the tomato is ready to be picked and it will ripen right into your basket or your fridge. You don't need to wait for it to turn strong red, as this will stall the growth of other tomato varieties on your plant. In this picture here you can see the tomato flower. Tomato flowers are pollinated by insects and wind, but the best results are by bees and other insects, as these are the best pollinators in nature. If you rely solely on the wind, then you will have poor yield. Keep in mind that in order for the plant to develop healthy flowers, it needs a steady amount of potassium. If your soil is poor in this mineral, then it's most likely that you will get very few flowers. And also the temperature also affects the flowering of your garden, as higher temperature will also decrease the flower rate of your garden. This is a very basic information on the most important things that you must know about growing your own tomatoes, and keep in mind that there are a lot more tips and tricks which I would like to show you right into my garden, and I wait for the weather just to become better. And keep in mind that this is one of the first videos I make, and most likely I skip some parts which are also important for your garden, but in this stage of your gardening they're not as important as water, soil, sun, climate and seeding. So this is for today's video, and thank you for your time. So please subscribe and like this video, and also take a look at my plant cat. Goodbye.